Well guys, I think I'm finally ready to say what everyone else has been saying for months now. 2021 was a terrible year for gaming. Even though there were highlights like Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Guardians of the Galaxy, Kena, and for many who played it, Metroid Dread, 2021 was a year that showed very clear impacts due to the virus. Pretty much every major game studio had to delay certain projects and change things around, and especially in terms of exciting announcements, things could get pretty sparse. But there were highlights, like I said, and one of the games that was supposedly a great game in an unfortunate year according to critics was Deathloop, a game made by the developers of Prey, which I really didn't enjoy, that involves looping elements that make me think of roguelike games, and it's a first-person shooter. Yeah, I must admit that the game didn't interest me all too much at first, apart from the concept of co-op being in it, which unfortunately it does not have. I looked at this game in the same light as I did Returnal, meaning that it looks pretty cool stylistically, but the prospect of heavy difficulty really makes me wary of the full price tag. However, I eventually learned from online reviews of the game that it wasn't a roguelike at all, rather a game in which you went through the day using 4 different times, each of them unlocking new paths and missions, and that it wasn't very hard at all. And with that, as well as hearing the incredible music tracks, I was sold on the game. I got it near the end of 2021 and played through the whole thing during December and January, and I gotta say straight up that I had a blast with this game. Without really looking at it critically, I just had a ton of fun with the game and never really got frustrated or bored with it at any point. But of course, there has to be a reason for that. So what ended up making this game so fun? Well, normally I don't like first-person shooters at all, so in all honesty, the shooting wasn't what made this game so fun for me. I do love games like Resistance due to the strategy of different weapon types and Aliens vs. Predator for the horror aspects of it, but 9 times out of 10, if you try to make me play a first-person shooter, I'll get bored of it pretty quickly. And Deathloop doesn't do all too much to change things up in terms of the basic gunplay. You have lots of weapons, and I will say they're very satisfying to use, but it's the special abilities you have that make the game, well, special. You see, the goal of the game is to hunt down and kill 8 different visionaries who are basically the bosses of the game, and with each one that you kill, you'll get a new power. This can range from allowing you to spike your health and damage for a while, or just straight up making you invisible, and they're all so satisfying to obtain. What pushes these abilities to another level is the fact that to have them permanently, you can't just pick them up once. Once you die enough times or the day ends, the loop resets and you have none of your precious items. This is a roguelike element that I normally wouldn't enjoy, but the fact that there's an item called Residuum, which you can use to keep these items and keep the things you truly need, adds so much strategy and fun. Not only do they really bolster the otherwise basic combat and stealth, but they are also an intricate part of the gameplay mechanics that really make Deathloop so fun. More specifically, I'm referring to the investigations and strategy. Now, normally in a game like this, you'd have fun but kind of mindless shooting segments interrupted by terrible and cumbersome investigation and story nonsense that you don't care about at all. But in Deathloop, that idea is flipped on its head by allowing you to take things at your own pace and making your actions legitimately matter in the grand scheme of your quest. If you consider another well-designed game like A Link to the Past, each item you find has a massive impact on the rest of the game and allows you to do so many new things. And Deathloop does a very similar thing with information and, in turn, access to areas. The story is a pretty silly and mind-bending journey that takes you through a lot of twists and turns. It's not pushing some crazy themes or incredible characters, but it's a believable, engaging, and funny story that will have you wondering and wanting more information until the very end. This is really important, and I'm very happy that they got the story down perfectly. because if it wasn't so entertaining, then I would have no desire to get more information about Black Wraith and progress the gameplay. It's a game where gameplay and story are connected on a very deep level, but rather than taking the approach of having the player go through the same journey as the player like these games, it makes the story the main motivation for playing more, which is very risky, as I said, but it really succeeds if you ask me. You want to find out what the story behind this place is. You want to find out more about the wacky and weird visionaries, and you especially want to discover more about the main character Colt. It's gripping and makes racing and shooting your way through the intricate yet concise maps incredibly fun for the whole 20 hours of gameplay that it'll likely take for you to beat it. It's fun, but it's very creative. Though there are only 4 different areas to explore, they each change through the different times of day and depending on your objectives. Up to the very end of the game, you'll be getting access to new areas with your arsenal of awesome weapons and powers that, due to the risk of losing them in the loop, truly feel like you earned them, as well as your arsenal of keypad codes and context to the situation around you. Though you may eventually say to yourself, how the hell am I ever gonna pull this off, the final few hours introduce the absolutely genius idea of having you dig deep into the personal lives of your foes in order to connect them with other visionaries, allowing you to wipe some of them out in one place at one time. It makes you feel like everything you've done had a true purpose, which is truly what Deathloop does best, a real sense of progression. The visuals are also incredibly nice, and the entire style of the game resembles that of 1960s America, but with so many weird twists that it feels like it's brand new and inspired by, rather than stuck in, the past. It's pushed forward by a crazy, sprawling island to go through, and each time you enter the combat arena, you're really in for a treat. Just as the style of the game itself implies, this is one heck of a ride where nothing is what it seems, which is perfectly indicative of the combat and its many hilarious possibilities. The number of laughs this game got out of me during combat encounters is too high to count, and yet just like the progression, it feels like I earned all of those laughs with my own personal experience. And I wasn't even one of the people spamming the kick move. I played the game as intended. The music is also incredibly funky and works perfectly for the style, giving off the vibe of a spy movie but with weird sounds added in to really make those last 4 letters of the title stick out. Really, this game excels in every aspect. It's fun, but it's very creative. Wait a minute, did I just... Oh, never mind. So yeah, it seems I have nothing to say about this game, but trust me, this is not a masterpiece like IGN says. It's incredible and very close to being the best first-person shooter I've ever played, but there are some flaws. The game does an undeniably fantastic job in terms of visuals, music, story, and investigative gameplay, but the combat is a little bit rough sometimes. Like I said, the concept of having to truly earn your awesome and cool weapons and abilities adds a ton to it, and it's nowhere near bad, but it could be a lot more open and innovative. A game like Doom Eternal is very innovative for the genre because of the incredible mobility offered, and something like that could do wonders for Deathloop, and now that I think about it, so could the different weapon types working on different enemies, another idea that plays a large role in that game. Deathloop basically lets you shoot a ton of faceless enemies and have lots of fun while doing it, but it does feel like the level design and enemy variety aren't built for this. If you look at a third-person shooter like Horizon or Uncharted, the level design is perfectly crafted for movements where you're meant to explore and discover, but also for large and impressive combat arenas with tons of possibilities. Deathloop doesn't really have that. Sure, when you're outside you have quite a few options, but it could really benefit from something like Horizon's Polecaster or a more varied use of the shift slab, because those could both lead to the way you move playing a larger role in the otherwise basic gunplay. The hacking mechanics are a great start, for example, to offering more variety, but it could have gone quite a bit further in my opinion. My only other gripes with the combat lie in the fact that aside from visionaries, every single enemy in the game is the exact same. They have funny cosmetics and lines, of course, but in terms of how they attack the player, you're mostly fighting the same few variations of an enemy with different weapons over and over. It could have done a lot more with this. Maybe minions who follow specific visionaries and thus have a version of their powers to use against the player, or even ones who can climb or swim, since Cult can't do either of those. Regardless, I still had a ton of fun with the combat, and I do really enjoy the Juliana invasions, even though they sometimes got me killed when I was so close to finishing an objective and really should have been used for an awesome co-op mode. I guess you could say that it's fun, but it's really creative. Wait, hold on a minute! In the end, Deathloop does have a few issues with the combat that could easily be fixed in a crazier and more innovative sequel, but as it stands, this is one of the best games of 2021, one of my favorite PS5 games so far, and a great sign for first-person shooter games to come. I adore the style and ideas within this game, but the story and its connection to the incredibly unique and addictive gameplay truly push it to where it deserves to be, namely with the score of 4.5 out of 5. Great job, Arkane. You managed to make a game that's fun, but really No! What the hell is happening? Why do I keep saying the same thing over and over again? Oh my god, I think I know what's going on. I'm in some sort of loop. Like IGN, you know? Well, hey, thanks for watching, I guess. Sorry that I've become IGN now. Make sure to keep feeling like a death and experiencing the exaggerated swagger of a loop. I give this game a 10 out of 10 because it had no water and had a little something for everyone. Now, bye!
Looking for a sign on the mind or a cycle time. Buried in the memory, hiding deep. Wolf is at your feet, and suddenly caught in the light, half alive under watchful eyes. Suffering for fun, youth is always on the run, rising with the same sun, chase your fame, loaded gun.
Question is, bitch. That bitch jackass will give himself away with the rape.